Summoning demons isn't easy, and today we have rituals that have actually worked. Back in 2021, Australia's ABC network was playing a routine news telecast when the anchor was taken by surprise as an unexpected satanic clip played during a switch of visuals. The anchor in question, Yvonne Young, was presenting a story about Queensland's proposal to make killing of police horses or dogs a criminal offense. Well, a few seconds later, her narration once again gets interrupted by a change of visuals, but this time the network played a satanic ritual on screen during the live telecast. In that scene of just a few seconds, a man can be seen standing in a black robe. Another person is seen standing beside the robe-clad person, and then there's somebody seen sitting next to a keyboard. There's also an upside-down cross in one corner of the room. The whole clip of the satanic ritual played for only a couple of seconds, but was caught by another media house. Also, the man in the black robe can be heard saying, "Hail Satan, uh-oh." The producers realized the mistake and immediately cut the feed, bringing the anchor back on screen. Poor thing stayed silent for a couple of seconds, then quickly started introducing another story, kind of awkwardly. But can you blame her? Some folks believe the people from the visual were members of the Noosa Temple of Satan that at the time was protesting against Queensland's education department regarding religious instruction classes in schools. Meanwhile, the temple themselves retweeted the clip with the caption saying, "Satan works in mysterious ways. I don't want to know." American professional boxer Ryan Garcia recently alleged that Bohemian Grove, which is a place that exists north of San Francisco, is very much real, and it is an elite club where he reportedly witnessed some really heinous stuff we're not supposed to talk about on the internet. He claimed this during an X-Space hangout with Andrew Tate on March 5th earlier this year, and in the wake of his allegations, a video went viral that showed an alleged satanic ritual performed at Bohemian Grove. The video was reportedly leaked back in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist and radio show host Alex Jones, who allegedly infiltrated the Bohemian Grove around the same time after being denied entry multiple times. Well, the visual's kinda hazy, audio's a little unclear, some of the ritual was ongoing with fireworks, cloaked priests, and there's a lot of speculation about alleged satanic ceremonies that have emerged. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience has also gone viral, where he claims that when he trespassed the Grove 2 decades back, he saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, further fueling the alleged satanic ritual speculation. While the Bohemian Club website refutes the claims of secret and illegal affairs going on, or heck even the existence of things, a 2011 article in the Washington Post revealed that the members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly back in the 1940s, and that should alarm you. A mysterious snippet of footage showing people wearing black robes making a human sacrifice in front of a Shiva statue at the CERN, or European Organization for Nuclear Research campus, was posted on YouTube back in 2016 to a lot of debate. Well, a lot of folks were like, "It's fake, it's staged." It's been confirmed that the video was indeed filmed at the CERN campus, and these cloaked figures are allegedly CERN researchers performing a satanic human sacrifice at the Large Hadron Collider. So CERN is a highly protected, restricted area with a lot of security gates and CCTV cameras. Another mysterious piece of information is the man who was filming the incident. Despite him freaking out seeing the alleged sacrifice, his reflection on the window pane shows he was wearing the same cloak as everybody else. Creepy. Finally for today, Python cowboy Mike Kimmel appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on August 11th of last year to share a crazy story about stumbling across what looked to be the aftermath of a ritual deep in the Everglades. So he was hunting invasive pythons at the time. And by the way, if you scroll his Instagram long enough, you're gonna see videos of him rescuing raccoons, saving law-abiding alligators from python death grips. He knows what he's talking about. Some of his posts border on full-blown PDA for his hunting dogs. He also shares pictures from guided hunts with clients. He's the real deal. However, his strangest post of all is about the time he came across some peculiar litter around an infamous abandoned Aerojet rocket test facility one night in April of 2019. Kimmel has spent countless hours chasing invasives around this area of the Everglades, and he had to investigate. First, he says he spotted dolls that had their eyes gored out and inverted crosses across their forehead. Then it turned into Latin graffiti sprayed in red paint and a wooden cross stuck in a giant rock pile. The situation really devolved when he climbed up the rock pile and came across a small scarlet snake wrapped around the neck of yet another doll. This snake was still alive, and it was leaking redness from its rear end. Now, according to him, it's rare to find a snake in this area, and it's really weird that it's wrapped around the doll, and also the whole redness thing. The snake's maybe a foot long. It's tiny. Kimmel said he's caught thousands of snakes in his life. None of them have ever been leaking redness out of their rear like that. By this point, he's a little freaked out. Dolls with no eyeballs and a little graffiti is one thing, but a live animal in anguish takes this beyond any kind of silly prank. He said as he was leaving that rock pile, there was a huge spray-painted phrase on the asphalt, maybe 50 feet long, and it was translated to, "He's watching, turn around, run, hide." So he moved further into the main building of the complex, and the more he investigated, the weirder it got. He found a 50-foot spray-painted pentagram with a 3-legged chair in the middle, with a big red stain, like something was sacrificed there. On the walls there were more Latin sayings with upside-down crosses. In another room there was a little nightgown, and he thinks it was spray-painted red, but it was supposed to look like it was covered in bad fluids. There was a lot of phrases on the wall that were talking about sacrificing a human to the devil, and in one of the rooms that he couldn't gain access to, he could tell through a busted-out window that there was a sleeping bag in there, something stuffed inside, and that's when he was like, "I'm out of here." Later on, when he got home, he started researching the facility. The man who built it was named Marvel Jack Whiteside Parsons, a Caltech rocket scientist and the co-founder, obviously. He was a known Thelemite occultist, meaning he practiced the Thelema spiritual philosophy and new religion founded in the early 1900s. Now, this isn't directly linked to Satanism, but he was known to conduct rituals summoning goddesses with Scientology founder Ron Hubbard. Enough said. If you need a new bestie, all you need is a cup of salt, 6 scented candles, preferably lavender, lots of chalk, a box of matches, and you can't forget an offering. Now, this depends on the demons. Usually a couple of boxes of organic dark chocolate will do the trick. Start by choosing your summoning area. It could be your attic, your basement, a clearing in a deep dark forest, or an abandoned building. You can also choose a cemetery, but expect some ghosties, some ghouls, maybe a vampire. Cover your chosen summoning area in a large ring of salt and make sure there are no gaps. Using that chalk, draw a circle within the confines of the salt. Then draw an inverted pentagram in the circle. Make it big and expressive. And after all, you want to make sure you're impressing your future demon buddies. Place 5 of your candles at each point of your pentagram and place a 6th in the center. Light the candles with a match and place your offering in the center of the circle, next to that candle. Now recite the words Secula Secorulum, be my friend, over and over, about 6 times. Say it confidently and with conviction. And if you have a particular demon in mind for summoning, picture them in your head while chanting. If you've done this correctly, then you should see purple and red light emanating from the center of the summoning circle. Now at this point, introduce yourself, get to know them. Make sure that your demons know not to cause too much chaos while they're here. Once you have confirmed they're cool, you're gonna be safe, feel free to break the salt ring and invite them to your social gathering. Once you're done, return them to the summoning circle, rebuild the salt ring, and recite the words, "Home sweet home," and they're gonna go back to their ring of hell. If you want a demon with more power, it's vital to work in a group. This should be made up of multiple powerful magicians channeling their collective energies into the creation of a portal. The more powerful summoners there are in a group, the greater the results. The power of the group will also determine how long the portal can remain active, since longer lasting portals allow more demonic forces to enter our plane of reality. Next up, the connection between spiritual planes of reality on our own is the most sensitive at 3 a.m. This is because the line between spirit and matter overlaps at this hour, thus making us more aware of spiritual forces, which we'd otherwise not come in contact with. Time to start the ritual. Pretty simple, just pour gasoline or another flammable concoction on the ground, and if you're creating a new portal, you're gonna have to trace the outline of the area. But if it's already clearly marked, a straight line from one side to the other will do. Afterwards, it's time to surround the portal and begin to chant. Conjuro potentiae Lucifer, petefesio apporta ad inferos, et tua demones transire, sic orantar mundi, and you say this over and over again. As this gets close to 30 repetitions, have the leader of the group approach the portal and light the fire. On the 60th repetition, all magicians should kneel on one knee, hands stretched, palms facing the flames from a safe distance, with energy from the hands directed at flames. Repeat the chant for 30 more repetitions in this position. On the 90th repetition, either the flames are going to soar higher and you're going to see the spirits, or maybe somebody's going to jump. You're going to feel the supernatural occurrences. Now, if somebody feels summoned to enter the portal at this point, it can be done while everybody else is channeling their energy into it. Everybody should remain kneeling, minus the 1 or 2 people that go through the portal, because it's vital that the portal remains open so that you can come back. Don't wander off too much while you're there, because if anybody's starting to falter, you could get trapped. Wouldn't be fun. The Conjuring Mirror. So this was something that originally belonged to a 45-year-old New Jersey man named Oliver Birnbaum, and it was used to practice a medieval ritual known as speculum, or mirror magic. He performed a lengthy incantation ritual known as a conjuring formula, inviting the spirit world to assist him in manipulating the future. So when he first started doing this, he didn't see a lot in the mirror. Maybe the movement of a couple of blurred forms, or quick little incidents that really didn't mean anything to him. But the more he concentrated his attention into the mirror, the more control Oliver gained, and ergo the more he could see. After performing this ritual, obsessively for many months, he got to the point where all he had to do was state what he wanted to see and the desired image would appear, eventually being able to tune into the future whenever he wanted. He gained the ability to project people he didn't like into the mirror, singling them out for punishment or revenge. Eventually, Oliver neglected the part of the ritual where he had to pay homage to Satan, and as a result, the evil he proposed for others began to happen to him, and the spirits he turned loose on his enemies were now infesting his home. After about a week of torment, this man was so terrified that he called a Catholic official and was like, "Please send me anybody." He got the Warrens. When they got to his home, they met a man frightened out of his wits, and well, rightfully so. Doors were opening and closing by themselves. Every minute something would crash and break, or bounce off a wall and just smash. Ed Warren was able to reverse the ritual originally enacted by Oliver and bless the house, stopping the disturbance. And he took the mirror with him too. Emerging also from the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren is that of the Black Lace Veil. So after one of his public lectures, Ed was conversing with a couple that had been in the audience. They introduced themselves as Alan and Lonnie, and they'd come because Alan had suspicions about Lonnie being under some sort of occult influence. He's like, whenever Lonnie's angry, her features are changing into something that looks like a wolf, and her voice would be different. Like, not a voice that she could make on her own just doing an impression. Well, when Lorraine walked over to join the group, Lonnie experienced an episode of instantaneous possession and lunged, like almost to attack Lorraine. After about 10 minutes, this passed, and Lonnie was lucid enough to explain that she'd been dealing with memory loss, losing hours and days of her life, which is a symptom that's kind of common in possession. Turns out she'd visited a store prominent in selling tools to help with witchcraft, bought a book on black arts, and performed a ritual for acquiring lovers. She wanted her boyfriend to fall in love with her, and this ritual involved the Black Lace Veil, on top of which she placed a crown of goat horns before renouncing God and her baptism, along with swearing allegiance to Satan, finalizing the ritual by washing down the vow with a cup of animal life force. So a month after Lonnie performed the ritual, Alan began paying her the attention she wanted, making her entitled world perfect. But everything went sideways, and Ed was like, okay, we're gonna need an exorcism. So he made contact with the priest the next morning, who was able to come and assist with the procedure. After everything was said and done, the Warrens brought the Black Lace Veil, the goat horns, the cup, and the conjuring book home with them, because, well, they didn't want repossession to happen. And finally, yep, Ouija boards count as demonic rituals, folks. Patty Donovan was simply a lonely girl, and she thought this little board was going to find her a friend. And it found her a manipulator. She spent months falling in love with a spirit she believed to be in love with her. She told it secrets about her everyday life. She was like emotionally dependent on this weird being. Well, on the evening of March 2nd of 1974, she was pleading with her boyfriend to manifest. And the next morning, her dad found the spark plug wires pulled out of his car, the rubber hose unfastened, and the fan belt was cut. And also, Patty was like, okay, I'm gonna go try my car. Well, the internal engine was completely disassembled. That week, other incidents of apparent vandalism occurred around the Donovan house. Oh, and Patty couldn't contact her invisible boyfriend anymore. Night after night after night, she tried to communicate, but the planchette would just slide over to goodbye. She had no idea that her ethereal boyfriend was a supernatural vandal that was targeting her. By the second week of March, material damage to the house and cars was so major that her dad complained to the police. By April, furniture was levitating, and by that there was a 250-pound dresser flinging itself around while flying erratically. Rocks were raining from the sky, pelting the house. Thankfully the police did see that one, but they had no answers. Finally, the family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. They got to Maine as quickly as they could, and they were like, whoa, what's going on? After a lengthy tour of the house, they conducted an interview with the entire family, and that's when they found out about the Ouija board. So then they reached out to the Catholic Church. They were like, please, we need to, get on with an exorcism. It took about a month. And the family experienced many more unexplainable horrors during that time. After the exorcism took place on May 2nd, the family was finally free from demonic torment, but they were left with over $5,000 in damages to the home, which would be like over 30 grand in today's money. Well, that's all for today, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident ooky spooky girly. See ya!
Number 5 on this list is the closet game. This is a game where you can make it so that your closet is forever haunted by a demon, because apparently this is desirable to some people. In fact, the entire point of the game is to simply summon a demon. It's very simple, and you won't need a whole lot of things to make it work. First things first, you're gonna need a closet, and this is where you're gonna be summoning your demon and where it's going to stay for the rest of your life, assuming that you perform the ritual properly. You are also going to need a box of matches. Get your matches matches and head to the closet. Now you need to make sure that all the light in that room that your closet is located in is off. Having any light around will interrupt the ritual and it won't work. Get inside your closet and close the door. You should be in complete darkness at this point. Take one of your matches and hold it up to your face. Don't light it yet, just have your match there and ready to go for when you do need it. Now say the following words: "Show me the light or leave me in darkness." Those are the words, and once you say those, you should begin to notice a serious presence in your environment. You will start to hear whispers as if somebody is standing behind you and whispering in your ear. The second that you hear that, and this is very important, you have to light your match immediately. It's said that if you don't light it quickly enough or at the exact right moment, then the demon that you have just summoned to your closet will grab you from behind and pull you back into the darkness. Now, assuming that you did light your match okay and you haven't been pulled straight back to hell, then the whispers should stop and now you can safely exit your closet. However, now your closet is literally forever haunted by that demon. So yeah, this is gonna go on the should never perform list for me, because literally best case scenario is that you survive the ritual and now you just have to forever fear going and getting clothes from your closet. Number 4 on this list is the 11-mile game. This game is actually done in your car or on your motorcycle, so a little change from our standard get in a room and turn the lights off sort of ritual. That being said though, it does have to be performed at night and you also have to be alone in your vehicle. You're gonna have to take your car out into the woods, drive down the wooded roads and keep your mind open. Eventually you will come upon a road and you're gonna have to recognize that this is the 11-mile road. There isn't going to be any bright flashing neon signs, so that's where your intuition has to come into play. Once you turn down the 11-mile road, there is no going back until you finish it, so ready yourself and then begin your drive. You have to make sure that your radio is off, same with your phone, and also have all your doors and your windows shut. As you're driving, things will begin to happen. The first mile, there's nothing, it's just a standard road, but by the time you get to the 4th mile, you may start to hear voices or notice movements in the darkness. Keep your eyes on the road and keep driving. By the 8th mile, your headlights will be flickering, the voices will be incredibly loud, maybe even from your back seat. You may see bright lights from the forest. Just keep your eyes on the road and keep driving. By the 10th mile, don't look in the mirror, don't look in the back seat. Your car may even stall and stop, but you can't panic. Quickly turn it off and then turn it back on and keep driving, because you can't stay in one place for very long. Last mile is the 11th mile, and your car will assuredly stall. You just have to tune everything out. Voices, feelings, sensations. Ignore everything. Close your eyes if you have to. Plug your ears. Whatever you have to do so that you don't look at anything. Just get your car operating again and keep driving. If you make it through the 11th mile, then you will reach a dead end in the road, and here is where you can finally stop. At this point, you've just made it through the 11-mile road and you are granted with one wish that will manifest something physical inside your car. This ritual is only extremely dangerous if your focus shifts for any moment. If you trust your ability to stay super calm under the type of demonic pressure you would be experiencing from the 11th mile, then that's up to you. But just know that if you do stop or you do look at something, then the consequences could be very dire. Number 3 on this list is the gambler's game. Now honestly guys, this is actually one that I would be very interested in as somebody who likes to gamble. This one kind of sounds fun. However, you gotta know your life will be on the line, so probably not the best idea. How it works is super simple. You will need a deck of cards, a quiet room, a table, and 2 chairs. You want to set the table up so that there's nothing on it except for the pack of cards and chairs facing across from one another. Sit in your chair and look at the empty one across the table from you. Open up your cards and shuffle them thoroughly. Do not try to cheat. You have to play fair. At the end of the day, you are gambling here. Now the game that you actually play is up to you, so you might have a slight advantage there. However, it's said that the gambler, who you're going to play with, prefers blackjack and may even take it easy on you if that's the game you choose. Pick the game and deal out the cards to yourself and to the empty seat. Now very simply, look across at your invisible partner and say, "Let's play." If the gambler feels like playing, then you should feel a chill in the air, like a strong breeze. That means that he's across the table from you now and you can continue. You won't be able to see him, he will still be invisible. Also, if you don't feel a chill in the air, don't bother continuing, there won't be anybody there. Once he's there though and accepted to play with you, the wager from your end is your life. Proceed by playing the game as you would. You'll have to move his hand for him, but once again, don't cheat. You will die if you do. If the game progresses, progresses and you lose, then the gambler won't waste any time at all. You will be killed on the spot. If the game progresses though and you win, and this is the good part, you can now take the top card off the deck and cut open your index finger on one hand. Once you've drawn blood, then congratulations, that hand is now your lucky hand. If you head to a casino and you play blackjack and you pick up the cards with that hand, you will turn a mate hand. If you throw a die, same deal, they will land on your number. Basically now you have exceptional gambling luck for the rest of your life, and you could in turn become extremely rich. You still shouldn't do this though, because you are betting your life to begin with, and you could very easily lose to a professional demon gambler. But the reward at the end is amazing. Now all this could just be a major hoax on the internet. Like if you think about it, he's invisible the whole time and you just have to move his cards. Like that's basically just solitaire. So I'm not totally sure, but we might never know, because I personally do not want to risk my life and test the theory. Number 2 on this list is the Dry Bones Ritual. This game is super similar to the Midnight Man game, if you've ever heard of that one. The idea is pretty simple. Hide and seek with a demon with potentially life or death stakes. That, in my opinion, doesn't sound so great. However, if you win, then you do get something pretty special. It's said that if you're able to win this hide and seek game, then the demon Dry Bones will grant you one wish of your choosing, so you could stand to gain quite a bit. If you're gonna do this, then it has to be done at exactly 12:01 a.m. You have to make sure that every door in your home is firmly locked. This goes for the windows as well. All electronics, lights, radios, anything that is typically plugged in, that has to be turned off as well. Once this is done, focus your mind on the wish that you want. It has to be something realistic, because it's going to show up outside your door when the game is over if you win. Once you've done that and made it clear in your brain, light a match. If this match doesn't burn out in less than 15 seconds, so it has to stay lit for 15 seconds, then Dry Bones has decided that it will play with you tonight. Now, lie on the ground and say, I am aware of your presence, and I welcome you into my home, but not my body. Come now. If you hear a deep echoing moan, then it is on its way. It's at this point that you would better run and you better hide, and you gotta make sure that it's good, because you have to stay hidden until 3 a.m. that same morning. If you are capable of lasting until 3, then come out and say, thank you for playing, but please leave now, you are no longer welcome. You have then won the game, and you can now go find your wish granted outside of your home. If it finds you in that 3 hours though, no one actually knows what happens. You might die, you might be petrified, maybe something nice even happens, I'm not sure. Although I certainly would not want to be the person to find out. Number 1 on this list is Blue Baby Blue. Now Blue Baby Blue is very similar to Bloody Mary, except now you'll be summoning a demon baby, so that's something, I guess. As with many of these rituals, this will be taking place in a dark room with a mirror. Now the dark room actually has to be a bathroom, because you're gonna need access to a toilet. If you don't have a toilet, then you're probably gonna die. Here's what you have to do. Go into your bathroom and lock the door. Turn all the lights out so that you should be in complete darkness. Now you will need just a slight bit of light to see some sort of reflection in the mirror, so either wait for your eyes to adjust, or I guess bring in a very small candle with you. Now stick out both of your hands as if you were holding something in front of you. Look into the mirror and repeat this 13 times. Baby blue, blue baby. That's 1. Do that 13 times without fail, which is actually kind of hard. Baby blue, blue baby, baby blue, blue baby. Yeah, that would be difficult. But if you make a mistake and trip up on your words, then it's said that it won't work. So you're gonna have to start again if you do that. If you do make it through that part of the ritual, then in your outstretched arms, you should feel a weight has just formed. You won't be able to see it, but you will very clearly feel that you are now holding a demon baby. Now you have to make sure that that thing is far away from you, because if it's close enough, then it's gonna scratch, it's gonna claw, it's gonna rip out your hair. It's not a pleasant baby. After a little while of feeling the weight in your arms and hopefully it not clawing the crap out of you, you're gonna start to hear crying coming from inside your head. This is your cue to take the baby, drop that thing in the toilet, and flush it out of here. It's said that if you don't do that part fast enough, kind of similarly to our previous example with the matches, then you're gonna be in trouble. If you wait a little bit too long, then a hideous looking woman is gonna appear in the mirror. She's gonna stare straight at you and yell, "Give me back my baby." That scream is said to be so loud that it will break the glass of the mirror, and then she will step straight into your bathroom and murder you. Definitely not a good freaking time if you ask me.
In 5th place, we have a North American ritual. While I'm about to talk about rituals in detail, I've left out some steps for safety reasons. If you decide to try and use the rituals, please let me know in the comments what happens. I do not recommend trying to open a portal, especially in our current climate. Seriously, as a Canadian, I've choked on enough forest fire smoke this year. But since this is what y'all want, allow me to begin. For starters, in order to open a powerful portal to hell, it's vital to work in a group, which should be made up of multiple powerful magicians channeling their collective energies into the creation of the portal. The more powerful the summoners there are in a group, the greater the results. Now, the power of the group will also determine how long the portal can remain active, since longer lasting portals allow more demonic forces to enter our plane of reality. Secondly, one must find a suitable area for performing the ritual, ideally in a rural location. The area should be quiet and desolate, free of distractions or unnatural channels of energy. Rooms that are surrounded by nature are the best setting, since it's quite helpful to have a frame for the portal. There are also energy centers from ancient times scattered across the globe that can provide a, tenfold or more of magical energy than a group would be able to manifest on its own. I'm not giving examples there, that's where you've got to do your own research. Next up, the connection between spiritual planes of reality and our own is the most sensitive at 3 a.m. The line between spirit and matter overlaps at this hour, thus making us more aware of the spiritual forces which we'd otherwise not come in contact with. I hope you're a night owl, because I am certainly not these days. One must dress also appropriately for the summoning. While there's no high school level dress code, clothing worn should be simple, uniform, and if you own a dark or red magician's robe, that would be ideal. All folks involved should be dressed the same, but there are 2 variations where 2 exceptions are accepted. The first of the 2 exceptions in regards to colors may be the 1 or 2 magicians who plan on entering the portal. The other exception may be the leader of the group, who will also light the fire. Alrighty, now that that's out of the way, it's time to start the ritual. Pretty simple, just pour gasoline or another flammable concoction on the ground. If you're creating a new portal, you'll have to trace the outline of the area, but if the portal is already clearly marked, a straight line from side to side will do. Afterwards, time to surround the portal and begin to chant. Conjuro potentiae Lucifer, patefacio a porta ad inferos, et tua diamond transire, sic urantar mundi. I promise, I got through that without stumbling. As the 30th repetition approaches, have the leader of the group approach the portal and light the fire. On the 60th repetition, all the magicians should kneel on one knee, hands stretched, palms facing the flames from a safe distance, with energy from the hands directed at the flames. Repeat the chant for 30 more repetitions in that position. I couldn't. My knees absolutely could not. But on the 90th repetition, either the flame will soar higher and spirits visible to all or some members of the group will jump out of the flames, or another supernatural occurrence will be felt. If one of the members of the group feels summoned to enter the portal at this point, it can be done while the remaining magicians are channeling their energy into it. So the remaining magicians should remain in the kneeling position described previously, while 1 or 2 people at most pass through the portal. It's vital that the portal remains open so that the traveler or travelers have an exit. Don't wander off too much, because if your partner's concentration begins to falter, you could remain trapped forever in a state of doom and frenzy. Good luck on that front! In 4th place, we have the Cave of Sibyl. Naples, Italy is home to a gateway to hell called the Cave of Sibyl, which was described by Virgil over 2,000 years ago in the Aeneid. If I'm quoting directly, the gates of hell are open night and day. Smooth the descent and easy is the way. According to the poet, the Trojan hero of the same name met the oracle Sibyl here, and she guided him through the cave into hell. In 1932, after centuries of searching, explorers finally uncovered this entrance to the netherworld. Now today, visitors to the Cumae archaeological site can go inside Sibyl's cave and walk through her coffin-shaped rock-cut passageways. Okay, before someone asks about the ritual enacted, that was done privately by the prophetess, and I felt like since she left the portal behind, it deserved a spot on today's list. Partially because I wanted to emphasize that portals have been enacted since the beginning of time, and hey, if you need a portal, I'm not saying you should go here, but this place could have some strong energy for it. Don't do it, but if you are. In 3rd place, we have a ritual for summoning Satan. Once again, I'll be leaving elements out of this description. While I can't control what y'all do, I don't want any apocalyptic chaos on my conscience. My life is plenty exhausting enough without having that on its plate. This particular ritual comes from the Grimorium Verum, published by Jake Stratton Kent in 2009. So firstly, the magician must forge a pact with the demon that does the call dialing itself, a sort of psychopompic spirit called the CERN, whose sigil must be inscribed alongside the operant's initials at the outset of the process onto a ruby or correspondent precious stone. Ooh, I love rubies. So this amulet is to be worn inside the magician's breast pocket or on a necklace at all times. Essential to operating the Verum is a calendrical convention drawn from Hermetic astrology that utilizes both the planetary hours and assigns a spirit to each particular day of the week. So this dictates that the construction of most of the tools for the ritual are to be done at dawn over the course of a few weeks during a time when the moon is waxing. So unlike the ritual I kicked off today with, this one is much more time consuming. The actual ritual of summoning must be done at an appointed time depending on the properties of the demon. So to compel the dark host, the magician must cut a branch at dawn from both a virgin elder tree on the day of Asaroth and hazelwood on the day of Surgat, inscribing upon them the seals of the demons Fremost and Klepot, to be fashioned into wands of evocation and divination, respectively. Similarly, the materials for the signing of the pact are to be purified and consecrated at dawn, also on the day of Astaroth. The Verum conveniently includes instructions for the consecration of a ritual stabby implement intended to sacrifice a goat, as well as its scanning, scraping, stretching, and curing into parchment upon which the demon sigil will be copied. The writing of the contract on the parchment, including the copying of the sigil of CERN, the demon seals, and the drafting of all legal agreements, is to be done at dawn on the day of Beelzebub. Special herbs and incense are then used to immerse the magician in a sensory tradition. A mixture of mace, frankincense, and aloe wood is burned in a censer upon the altar at the ceremony and used to fumigate all tools for the operation. For purity, the magician must anoint themselves and their tools in a sprinkling of holy water mixed with mint, marjoram, and rosemary that is bound by a thread spun by a maiden. The setting of the ceremony demands a magic circle that should be roughly 9 feet in diameter and must be drawn with a stabby implement, consecrated at dawn on the day of Silkard, and drenched in red mole fluid and juice of pimpernel. Within the circle's center, the magician is to draw the triangle of evocation, upon which is set the ceremonial altar. The ritual itself prescribes a rite of sanctification, using the wand to mimic alternating flail lashes, and a recitation of personal exhortations. Then, after a series of prayers used to elevate the operant's magical authority, the spirit is to be called forth. After chanting an incantation of barbarous names, the demons must be summoned in top-down hierarchy order. First petitioning one of the unholy trinity of Lucifer, Astaroth, and Beelzebub, then calling upon one of their 7 dukes, and then finally the demon further down the hierarchy which you wish to actually summon. Following an exhausting hours-long rite, the desired demon is believed to appear, either as a presence or as a vision in a mirror. So from here, the magician might sign a pact with the particular demon, and the rest depends on what is needed. And how you treat the demon. They're pretty dang tricky beings. In second place, we have Huska Castle. Located north of Prague, Huska Castle is a 13th century Gothic masterpiece that sits on top of Hell's Gate. Aesthetically speaking alone, I would love to visit it someday. According to local lore, the castle's chapel was built to cover an enormous hole in the ground that served as a satanic threshold. So I haven't been able to find the specifics on the rituals used to open the portal, but it was too important to leave off today's list. The defensive walls also prevented demons and other ghastly creatures from crawling out of the hellhole. Animal-human hybrids were reported to have crawled out of it, and dark-winged, otherworldly creatures flew in its vicinity. Legend has it that when construction began in the castle, all the prisoners that were sentenced to death were offered a pardon if they consented to be lowered by rope into the hole and report back on what they saw. So when the first person was lowered, he began screaming after a few seconds, and when pulled back to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years. He had grown wrinkles and his hair had turned white. Ugh. May I recommend trying to find a modern-day Buffy? She'd be anyone's best bet for closing a hellmouth. During World War II, the bad German guys occupied the castle until 1945. The Yahtzees were said to have conducted experiments and summonings into the occult. According to one source, locals were certain that they had been using the powers of hell for their experiments. So Huska Castle is still considered haunted, and many tourists have reported seeing headless horses and demonic winged beasts lurking in the halls. And finally, in first place, we have the Ouija board recovered from the Donovan household. Yep. Ouija boards count as demonic rituals. I repeat, as always, leave the stupid things in the store or wherever you found them. Not worth it. Patty Donovan was simply a lonely teenager who thought the board could find her a friend, and it found her a manipulator. She spent months falling in love with a spirit she believed to be in love with her, telling it secrets about her everyday life, becoming emotionally dependent on the spirit. So on the evening of March 2nd, 1974, Patty pleaded for the spirit to manifest. Yeah, the next morning, her father, Theodore Donovan found the spark plug wires pulled out, the rubber hose unfastened, and the fan belt cut when he attempted to start his car. Not much later, Patty attempted to start her car, and it was discovered that the internal engine had been completely disassembled. That week, other incidents of apparent vandalism occurred around the Donovan house, and Patty could no longer raise her invisible boyfriend on the Ouija board. Night after night, she tried to communicate, but the planchette would simply slide over to goodbye. She had no idea that her ethereal boyfriend had actually manifested in the form of a supernatural vandal. By the second week of March, material damage to the house and cars had become so troublesome that Ted complained to the police. When they arrived, he pointed out the destruction done to garden plants and shrubs, the exterior of the house, and the apparent intrusion into a locked garage to puncture tires and tear engines apart. Before leaving, the policeman assured Ted that they'd keep an eye on the property during night patrols. Later that second week, after work, Ted and his wife Ellen were sitting in the kitchen with their son Brian when all three heard something smash against a wall somewhere inside the house. And after investigating, they found a gaping 18-inch hole in the plasterboard wall inside Brian's room. Just as upsetting was the fact that the jagged edges of the plasterboard were pointing inwards, with the blow coming from inside the walls. The house was further plagued by loud noises every night that only escalated in frequency and volume, along with further unexplainable damage to the walls. On April 1st, furniture began to levitate, with a 250-pound dresser flinging its contents while flying erratically. Rocks had also begun to rain from the sky, pelting only the Donovan house, which the police bore witness to. Ted eventually broke down at work and explained the horror of his home to his supervisor, who urged him to reach out to our favorite people, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So Ted instead tried moving his family into a hotel first, and the spirits followed the family there, destroying the room and making so much noise that the family was thrown out of the hotel and forced to return home. Finally contacting the Warrens, they arrived in Maine as quickly as they were able to, and oh my goodness. Lorraine said nothing, although at the time she sensed in the home the presence of entities so numerous and threatening that she had to fight with herself to keep from going back outside. After a lengthy tour of the house, Ed and Lorraine conducted an interview with the entire family, where Patty's history with the Ouija board was revealed. The Warrens then contacted the Catholic Church to begin the process for an exorcism to be granted, which sadly took about a month. The family experienced many more unexplainable horrors during that time. After the exorcism took place on May 2nd, the family was finally free of the demonic torment, but left with over $5,000 in damages, which would be over $30,000 in today's money.
Number 5 on this list is Sugiura. Sugiura is a Japanese fortune-telling ritual that's goal is to tell the user their future. To do this, you're gonna need to summon what many people believe is an undead spirit or a demon, and whenever you do that, there are always some risks involved. You're gonna need a few things to perform this ritual. A comb, something to cover your face with, not just a mask but your entire face has to be covered, and to be at a crossroads that won't be busy. Head to the crossroads with your comb and your face covering. You'll want to get there around 11:50 at night. When the clock hits midnight, take your comb and stroke the teeth of it so that it makes some noise. Then say the following words: Sugiura, Sugiura, grant me a true response. Now wait, it may take a little while, so you have to be patient. If nobody approaches the crossroads or someone you know approaches the crossroads, then sadly the ritual did not work and you can go home. If a stranger approaches though, then it did work, and you have just summoned an undead spirit. Once you see them in the distance, immediately throw your face covering on. When you feel their presence beside you, kindly ask them to tell you your fortune. They should do so and you will receive an insight into what is to come. The thing about fortunes though is that a lot of times you're not going to like what you hear. We always have these lofty expectations that assume life will always be better than it is right now. Well, what if you knew for certain that it's actually going to be worse and there isn't anything that you can do about it? That's one of the reasons why you shouldn't do this ritual, because knowing what comes can take the meaning out of life. This is also a demonic ritual where you're summoning an undead spirit. It doesn't always go the way that you want it to, and on occasion people have reported that the spirit that they summoned wasn't the one that they expected. Similar to how demons can hijack Ouija board experiences, they could do the exact same thing here. Number 4 on this list is the concentration ritual. This is a pretty strange one where you'll actually learn how you're going to die. If you want to do this, then you won't be able to do it by yourself. You're gonna need another person to help you. Close your eyes and clear your mind. Have your friends stand behind you and lightly pound your back as they begin the concentration chant. Now for this video, I'm not going to go through the entire chant because it's actually really long, but to sum it up, there are 5 verses that act as a way of hypnotizing you and sending your spirit away from your body. When it finishes, your friend from behind you will give you a light push that should make you stumble and fall forward. As you're regaining your balance, open your eyes and you should see a color. The color that you see determines how you're gonna die. For instance, red means that somebody's gonna stab you. White means that you will die of old age and you'll go to heaven, whereas black means that you'll die of old age and go to hell. The thing about this game is that you'll never know when this is going to happen to you. So you may learn that you're going to die from being stabbed, but never know when or by who. So for the rest of your life, you will be living in constant paranoia of somebody stabbing you. I think when it comes to death, ignorance truly is bliss, and learning about how you can die can only ever make your life worse right now. Number 3 on this list is the elevator game. The elevator game is a demonic ritual of sorts that is supposed to grant you the ability to enter another world. This other world is considered by most to be a demon realm. The game itself started in Korea, but has slowly gained more intrigue across the world from people looking to potentially enter hell. To do this, you'll need an elevator in a building that's at least 10 stories tall. The building that you're in should ideally be as empty as possible. Get in your elevator and then proceed to these following floors in order. First, you go to the 4th floor, then you descend to the 2nd floor. Then up to the 6th, and then back down to the 2nd, and then go all the way up to the 10th floor, and then finally back down to the 5th. Now at the 5th floor is when things get interesting. People have done this and have reported having an encounter with a woman. This woman looks normal on the outside, but I promise you that she isn't to be trusted. She will enter the elevator from the 5th floor and do anything she can to gain your attention. This could come in the form of flattery, or she may even antagonize you, but whatever you do, do not pay her any mind at all. There doesn't seem to be a conclusive answer to what happens if you speak to her. However, death or an eternal haunting, these are very much on the table. Once she enters and you don't speak to her, press the 1st floor. If you descend to the 1st floor, get out of the elevator and don't look back. You weren't accepted into the other world. If the elevator starts to go up when you press the 1st floor though, then congratulations, you just made it into the demon realm. The elevator will rise to floor 10, and when the doors open, you will find yourself staring out at a very different version of the 10th floor. From my understanding, it looks very similar to the other side in the popular sci-fi television show Stranger Things. The lights will be out, darkness will flood the space. Apparently some people have reported seeing a red cross if you look out the windows. If you want to get back, then just repeat the steps that you did to get there and you should make it back home. Now this could all just be an elaborate prank to get people to hop in an elevator and waste their entire day by going up and down floors. Because if somebody hops in the elevator, then you have to stop and do it all over again. However, in 2013, a Canadian student died in an elevator, and when people watched back the footage, she was acting very strangely in the elevator prior to dying, almost as if she was being possessed. None of these rituals are an exact science, and anytime you attempt to go to another world, expect there to be some potential consequences. Number 2 on this list is the 3 Kings. The 3 Kings is a ritual that should transport one person to an unknown dimension where they may get clarity on their past or future. Now for this ritual, you're gonna need a lot of things to make it work. A room without any outside light at all, a candle, a bucket of water, 2 sizable mirrors, an alarm clock, 3 chairs, a cell phone, and a friend that you trust. Yeah, I know, it's a lot of stuff. At around 11 at night, start setting up your ritual. Set up the chair in the middle of your room facing north and put the other 2 chairs next to it facing the same way. Take your mirrors and put them sitting in the chairs facing outwards. Have the bucket of water close by your chair. Now once all of this is done, it's time for you to go to sleep. Sleep until 3:30 a.m. in the morning. You must wake up precisely at that time and then head over to that room. Close the door and sit in the middle chair with your candle now lit. You should have your friend waiting outside of the door of the room that you're in. Now if all of this has been done correctly, this is when you should start to hear some voices. They'll be coming from the mirrors on either side of you, but it's very important that you do not look at these mirrors or make eye contact with whomever is speaking. You just have to keep staring ahead and try to stay calm. One of these voices will be the fool and one will be the queen. You in this scenario are the king. Being the king, you are allowed to ask questions that you would like to be answered. One of these beings will answer the questions. The problem is that you're never going to know who is who. The queen will tell you the truth, whereas the fool will lie to you. Not knowing who is who and having no way to find out makes it very difficult to discern the truth to these questions. Sometimes they may even respond to your question with one of their own, in which case you're obligated to reply. You will be able to speak to these beings for 1 hour, and right as that hour is up, your friend on the outside needs to get your attention. They should knock first, then try to call you. If you haven't responded to either of those, they need to come inside and throw the bucket of water on you. You may not respond to any of these initially because it's said that this ritual can bring you into a very deep trance. A trance that makes that hour you're sitting there feel like an eternity. An entire lifetime where you're stuck in your own mind sitting in that chair. Considering you don't even know if these answers are true or not, the risk is just not worth the reward for this ritual. Number 1 on this list is the corner game. This may be classified as a game, however it is basically a summoning ritual to bring a demon or ghostly spirit to our world. You can't perform this one on your own. You're going to need to have 4 people in total if you want to do this. You're also going to need access to a house without anything living in it other than you and your 3 friends. Turn off all the lights in your building or your home except for the ones in the room that you've chosen to perform the ritual. This room that you've chosen to do your ritual in, it has to have exactly 4 corners. Can't have any more, can't have any less. Head into your room and speak your name 3 times as you enter. Now before you enter the room, you'll have chosen a speaker. From here on out, after you've said your names, they are the only person that's allowed to say anything. Once you're inside and you've all repeated your names, close the door and turn off the lights. Everyone has to go to a corner of their choosing now and face into it with their backs to the center of the room. The speaker will then count to 3, and after they have done so, everyone has to move to the next corner of the room in a clockwise direction without looking at the center of the room. Do this exactly 4 times so that you end up in the same corner that you started in. Once this is completed, you will feel the presence of a figure in the center of the room. This is the demon or ghostly spirit that you've just summoned. Now what's kind of ridiculous about this is that you've just summoned this being, but you're not actually allowed to turn around and look at it. You have to remain with your back to the wall and just feel its presence. After you've had enough, you need to do the completion procedure, which is where everyone says their full name backwards 3 times, and then one by one, exit the room hoping that the being doesn't follow you or isn't still there. People trying this game have reported having one of their members disappear and not being able to get them back. People have also said that sometimes the room is now forever haunted by this thing that you just summoned. Either way, I would never do this because you literally can't even see the demon that you just brought here. You go through all of this trouble, risk your life, to just stand with your back to the room, staring at a corner. Not really my idea of a good time.
Coming in at number 5, the Undead Witch. Generally speaking, you should avoid undead witches. The living ones can be reasoned with and are often quite pleasant to converse with, even if you yourself are not a follower of Wicca. The ones who perished and through some dark magic managed to make it back to the realm of the living, those are the ones you gotta watch out for. Nobody wants to be at the receiving end of a hex or spell cast by a practitioner of magic who has returned from the grave. No thank you. An unfortunate cohort of Ouija using pals accidentally summoned one though, and the results were less than pretty. After procuring a Ouija board through some pretty standard methods, a guy named Justin and his pals decided to have a little seance, all in good fun of course. Fun is just how those things start though, and it quickly took a turn for the worse. The friends opened up the session and began to ask questions of the presence they had summoned. At first there was no response, but the intrepid paranormal enthusiasts pressed on dauntless, looking for some sort of message from the other side. Then the planchette started moving. Slowly at first, it swayed back and forth between the 4 corners of the board, picking up speed as it went. Soon it was just doing quick laps around the board. The circle shifted and undulated as the planchette began drawing out new shapes on the surface, freaking everyone out. They called it off, closed the circle, and decided to do something else. However, when Justin tried the board again, this time with a different friend, the results were the same, a slowly shifting planchette eventually reaching a fever pitch. After that second experience, he started to notice strange things happening. He would wake up in the middle of the night with the sensation of someone grabbing his arm. His pals that participated in the paranormal practice reported similar events. Looking into it, they discovered that this experience could have endowed them with a hex. From beyond the grave, this witch decided to weave some spells and made some mischief. Hopefully the folks on the receiving end are okay now. Coming in at number 4, close the circle. Now, this is just good advice for anyone interested in Ouija. Make sure that you fully understand the ritual before going in and performing it. Walking in half prepared will always end in disaster, so do not wing it. Read up on the process, ensure you understand what must be done, and for goodness sakes, make sure to close the ritual at the end. You can do everything else right, from starting with a good mindset, to being polite and patient with your summoned spirit, to refraining from asking for physical signs that they are present. But if you don't move the planchette to goodbye at the end of the session, whatever presence you've brought into your home is liable to stick around. and experience most foul. Some will be friendly, amicable spirits from the great beyond, willing to interact and leave without any trouble. But you can't believe everything a spirit tells you on a Ouija board, and many times demons will appear under the guise of a good-natured individual. This is where things can get dangerous. Take poor Vince, who once used a Ouija board as a child. He and his brothers managed to summon a Russian spirit who claimed to have been murdered in cold blood. A classic origin story for sure. But after they stopped communicating, the brothers decided to go get some food, without closing the circle. When they returned to the basement, the energy had noticeably shifted. A dark, heavy presence was here, and things were not as they were. Books and toys had been flung around the room in a whirlwind, but the Ouija board still sat in the middle, undisturbed. Apparently, when Vince looked into the mirror in the basement, he noticed that the eye on the Ouija board was looking around the room, as if searching for something. The brothers moved the planchette to goodbye and resolved never to do that again. Coming in at number 3, we've got a scorched corpse. Could be Freddy Krueger, could be someone else. I'd rather not take that risk though. It seems that whenever kids spend the night somewhere unfamiliar, they witness unexplainable phenomena. The result of overactive imaginations perhaps? Or is there something to these visions of the paranormal? Well, you could ask those who decided that a sleepover in an old school gym was a good idea what they saw. Christy and her soccer team had set up for an overnight stay at the school gym. Sleeping bags, snacks, scary stories, you name it. But someone brought a Ouija board, and that could not be resisted. The teammates gathered together and started the ritual, seeing if anyone from the school's history would show up. When they finally made contact with somebody, it spelled out words like thirst, and fire, and help. Then the spirit moved the planchette to goodbye, and that was that. They asked around the next day and discovered something disturbing. Apparently there had been a fire at this very location a long time ago, burning the building to the ground. Could it be that a poor, unfortunate soul was trapped in this inferno and now haunts the rebuilt gym? Coming in at number 2, we've got some solo advice. I'll do one more advice column contribution to this Ouija video just to make sure any curious individuals go in knowing as much as they possibly can. Never use a board on your lonesome. Not only is that a goofy, dorky thing to do, it can also be very dangerous. It takes 2 to tango, and it also takes a duo to draw upon the spirit world. Don't underestimate the power of the paranormal. In many dramatic interpretations of Ouija use, folks who go about it alone end up way worse for wear. Often they'll end up summoning something that will attempt to possess them, emboldened because they're alone. Or sometimes they'll simply be unable to control any aspect of the ritual and see some things that are quite upsetting. One story comes from an individual named Sarah who decided she wanted to contact some spirits in her free time. Unable, or maybe unwilling to gather some friends in time, she sat down with the board and planchette all alone. This proved to be a very bad call almost immediately as the planchette shot out of her hands and across the room. Needless to say, she did not attempt this again. Another tale comes from Oceana, who similarly wanted to see what spirits were around but refused to gather a group. When she started the ritual, nothing seemed to happen. A little perplexed, she began to clean up, but as she was moving candles, she noticed something quite spooky indeed. The planchette was moving totally on its own with Oceana nowhere near the board. She rushed over and moved it to goodbye and hasn't attempted a seance since. And finally at number 1, we've got summoning sleep paralysis. Most folks looking to dabble in Ouija will find a board and use it somewhere they feel safe, at home or maybe a friend's place. But if you're serious about finding some paranormal activity, notably haunted areas are the place to be. In visiting these locations, you're essentially accepting responsibility for whatever spirits or demons you encounter though. Take Aaron and Arjun, 2 friends who found a Ouija board and decided to take it to a graveyard. Definitely a place known for harboring spirits and the like. At the graveyard, the duo attempted to summon something and failed, or so they thought. After their uneventful seance, they returned home and went to bed. Late that night, Aaron experienced sleep paralysis for the very first time. Unable to move, he saw a ghostly woman with long black hair slowly floating towards him. Some might chalk that up to a coincidence, or maybe the fact that Aaron was a little spooked from his late night excursion. However, Arjun called up Aaron the next day and told him about an identical experience. The 2 friends had somehow summoned a spirit that followed them both home and began invading their sleep. Goodness gracious. Coming in at number 5, we've got the Evoker.
I'm gonna kick off the list with my personal favorite, even if it doesn't really fit the theme that I'm going for here. It's definitely a ritual and it definitely summons demons, but it's also for a different purpose than most, as one might say awakening a persona isn't the same thing as using a ritual to bring a demon into this world. Potato, potato. Anyone familiar with Atlas games should be familiar with all the different ways of summoning demons. You can use an app, head through the TV, or fire up any number of electrical gadgets to access the demons that'll help you fight. However, one stands out above the rest. Persona 3 is well known for its striking visual style, kick-ass soundtrack, and of course, the method by which you summon demons. If you want to summon your persona, you've got to find a gun-shaped evoker, put it to your head, and pull the trigger. That's right, we're summoning demons by shooting ourselves in the head. By the way, I don't recommend using this method in real life. But in the world of Persona 3, doing so will allow you to accept your own mortality, induce terror, and summon your persona. I'd say in terms of rituals to summon demons, this is an extremely simple yet hardcore way to go about it. No summoning signs, no special materials, just a gun, your head, and your emotions. Boom. If only summoning demons was always that simple. Many folks are only able to summon one particular persona, but the protagonist in Persona 3 can use all sorts of demons to their advantage. So in this case, using an evoker can have all sorts of different demonic results. Not bad. Coming in number 4, we've got finding a meat suit for Samhain. Plenty of demons get summoned through the many seasons of Supernatural. Some need folks to draw symbols, light candles, and recite incantations. Others require that a bowl of assorted ingredients and blood be lit on fire. Then there's the ritual to summon Samhain. This one gets really specific. First, it should be known that this demon can only be summoned once every 600 years, so be sure you've got the right calendar before starting. Most times you bring him about, you'll need a few super strong magic users. Also, it's important that whoever's going forward with this summoning ritual hides themselves from angels. Samhain is powerful enough that the celestial beings of light need to be watching at all times. Then you've got to sacrifice 3 people over the course of 3 days. Of course, the final blood sacrifice has to happen on Halloween. When else would you complete a crazy summoning ritual? Thanksgiving? Grow up. During this time, some more classic ritual stuff needs to happen. Blood is to be collected in a chalice. An old Celtic incantation is chanted. There are black candles, goat skulls, pentagrams, and special minerals. And this isn't some little piddly summon, it's a crazy one. If you get all the steps right, then the earth will crack and Samhain can arrive, taking full possession of his meat suit. Isn't that a fun phrase, a meat suit? And right back to the Halloween requirement, Samhain is the origin of Halloween. We wouldn't be celebrating the holiday without him. Of course, bringing him to life means that we'll be dealing with a few more ghosts, ghouls, and zombies than usual, but I suppose that is to be expected around Halloween. Coming in at number 3, we've got entering a basement. This just seems to happen in a lot of horror movies, huh? Some folks head on down into a creepy cellar through a hidden door, and there's an artifact waiting there for them. It might be a book, or it could be an enchanted orb. Touch it, read it, or break it, the results are all the same. Demons. Or ghosts, ghouls, and goblins, but that's kind of beside the point. It happened in The Evil Dead when the Naturam de Monto is found and a recording of incantations is played. It happened in Wishmaster when the fire opal is polished. And it happened and has happened every year for ages in the Cabin in the Woods thanks to that lovely cellar full of cursed antiquities. The best thing about these demon summoning rituals is that they're so simple, any idiot can do them. In fact, that's probably the expectation in the first place. Why bother with the planning and the learning to draw sigils and the spilling of blood when you can just crack open a book and watch the sparks fly? Plus, with this knowledge, entering any spooky basement immediately becomes step 1 in your demon summoning ritual. There's always the chance you're going to stumble across some artifact that will irrevocably alter the course of your destiny. Isn't that an exciting thought? What kind of demon would you summon from the basement? I like the idea of winding up a cursed music box and dealing with the consequences. Coming in at number 2, you can torture a family. Unlike entering a basement, torturing a family to summon a demon takes a little more finesse. You've got to know and understand the demon you're going for and ensure that the victims really don't know what's going on until the last possible moment. Take the Cult and Hereditary. They had this all planned out from the start. Like, it literally took them years to put this summoning ritual together. In the end, we get a lovely saxophone wail by the one and only Colin Stetson, and Paimon finds his way into a proper male host. But how did they make it happen? We follow the Graham family for most of the flick, meaning that we're not exactly privy to the details of the ritual. Thankfully, Madeline Aguilar interviewed some witches for the cut to find out a little more. Turns out that Paimon is listed in a Solomonic grimoire, which sort of outlines what he does and how to summon him. A summoner would need to draw a magical circle around themselves and a triangle just outside of it. They've got to be wearing the correct seal and be ready to offer the demon all sorts of stuff upon arrival. Plus, there might even be some additional demon managing involved. If you remove Paimon, who was once considered a king of hell, who was going to cover for him? It's just like real life work, but more supernatural. As is the case in most situations, the movie summoning was a little different from real life summoning, but still, going behind a family's back to switch the souls of their 2 children by decapitating one and possessing the other is a pretty crazy ritual. Then there's the whole nude old people lurking in an empty house bit. That's a little less fun in my opinion, but maybe I'll understand when I get older. Finally, at number 1, we've got revenge. I haven't done any extensive canvassing to find out if this is true or not, but I feel as though revenge is a primary driving force behind plenty of demonic summons. Don't quote me on that, but consider the implications. People want a lot of things: a large automobile, a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, but not everyone's willing to put it all on the line to acquire those things. However, once someone is possessed by a need for revenge, there isn't much that will prevent them from getting it. So if they have to summon a demon and give up their future, so be it. Revenge will be served. A prime example of a revenge-fueled ritual has to be that in the movie Pumpkinhead. Poor old Ed Harley loses his son to some rowdy dirt bikers and swears he'll get them for this. There are no rituals for bringing his son back, but there are rituals for getting revenge. He learns this from the old witch Haggis, who tells him that vengeance comes at a terrible price. Ed is fine with this and uses his son's blood mixed with his own to turn a corpse into the demon known as Pumpkinhead. Thus begins a horrifying rampage fueled by blood, one that can only be stopped by completing the ritual. And the only way to do that is for the man who summoned the demon to die. Ed Harley, who summoned a demon for revenge, realizes that it wasn't the right call. He ends up taking the place of Pumpkinhead in the grave.
Kicking off at number 5, Namtar. And this guy is pretty savage, although it kind of comes with the territory when you're the literal Mesopotamian god of death. Namtar, also known as Namtaru or Namtara, is loosely translated into destiny or fate in the ancient Mesopotamian language and was considered to be a chthonic minor deity in the mythologies of the ancient world. Just a little side note, chthonic is an absolutely awesome word and it literally means subterranean in ancient Greek. Chthonic, Cthulhu, I see what you did there. Namtar was considered to be the god of death and minister and messenger of An, Erechkigal and Nergal, the 3 major figures of ancient Mesopotamia and Sumerian mythology. He was considered to be responsible for diseases and pests, and it was said that he commanded over 60 diseases that emerged in the form of demons that could penetrate different parts of the human body. In other Sumerian texts, Namtar was widely considered to be the personification of death, much like the modern concept of the Grim Reaper, and he held dominion over the fate of mankind. Pretty heavy responsibility. Coming in at number 4, Rangda. In Balinese folklore, there are some insanely terrifying creatures known as the Layaks, a creature in the form of a flying decapitated head with bloody entrails still attached, that seek out pregnant women in order to suck their baby's blood. Well, let me introduce you to their queen, Rangda, and she is absolutely horrifying. In Balinese mythology, Rangda is the child-eating leader of an army of evil witches in constant battle against her eternal opponent, Barong, leader of the army of light and the forces of good. Good guy. Rangda is often depicted as a mostly nude old woman with long, unkempt hair, pendulous breasts and claws. Traditionally, her face is a horrifying fanged and goggle-eyed mask with a long, protruding tongue. It is often thought that Rangda played her part in the incarnation of Kalon Arang, a legendary witch in Javanese folklore that wreaked havoc throughout the late 10th century. Kalon Arang sacrificed her own daughter to Rangda at the Temple of Death and unleashed a great flood of death and disease. Gnarly stuff. Next up at number 3, Naberius. And this horrifying little dude first appeared in the grimoire From the Deceptions of Demons, written in 1583 by Johann Weyer, the famed Dutch occultist and demonologist. Supposedly, Naberius is the most valiant Marquis of Hell and has 19 legions of demons within his sphere of influence. His intention is to make men cunning in all art, but his most prolific intention is to make them cunning in rhetoric, the ability to influence with one's voice. Naberius speaks with a hoarse voice and also procures lost honors and dignities, as in, he collects people of weak morals. Naberius appears in the form of a 3-headed dog or a raven and presents himself with a loud and raucous voice, but speaks eloquently and amiable. Concerning the name of Naberius, it is often thought throughout demonic literature that he is associated to the Greek Cerberus, the 3-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades. In his grimoire, Johann Weyer considers them to be one and the same. So, I guess this guy was making the rounds. Swinging in at number 2, Moloch. And now we're getting into some pretty gruesome ground in ancient history. Moloch, oftentimes referred to as Molech, Milcom, and Malcolm, is the biblical name of a Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice. He often appears in the image of a large, ferocious humanoid bull dressed in flowing robes and golden-tipped horns. Ancient rabbinical traditions depict Moloch as a bronze statue which is heated with fire into which the victims of his sacrifice were thrown. This is tied to ancient Greco-Roman texts that associate this act of child sacrifice to Carthage and their worship of Baal Haman. Moloch has traditionally been interpreted as the name of a god, possibly meaning the king, but is also pejoratively mispronounced with the Hebrew vocalization Bosheth, meaning shame. Moloch is the shameful king, a creature of metal and fire that consumed countless children in ancient civilization, and that makes him pretty terrifying. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, Asmodeus. And this guy is one of the biggest players in the entire host of demonic entities throughout literature. Asmodeus, also known as Ashmedai or Ashmediva, is a grand king of demons, or in Judeo-Islamic law, the king of the earthly spirits. He is mostly known for the deuterocanonical book of Tobit, where he is the primary antagonist and the great prime evil. Asmodeus is often referred to as one of the 7 princes of hell, where each one of these princes represents the 7 deadly sins: gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride, and the sin of Asmodeus, lust. This guy is perhaps one of the most prolific demonic entities in literature and appears countless times throughout mythological and religious texts. He is tied to the Testament of Solomon and the creation law of the Temple of Solomon, where he began a campaign of malintent against the legendary king. In the Malleus Maleficarum, he is described as having 72 legions of demons under his command and serves only his emperor Lucifer. He incites gambling and is the overseer of all the gambling houses in the court of hell. Now, that's a table I'd never want to sit at. And on that note, I guess the house always wins.
In the 1950s, Indiana local Jim Jones founded a church that he claimed promoted socialism and equality with religious elements of Christianity. Initially, he wasn't much more than a charismatic hustler who faked faith healings by having audience plants pull chicken livers out of congregants' mouths, but as the years progressed, he demanded more and more of his followers. In the early 1970s, he moved his group to California and set them up in a commune-like settlement in Redwood Valley. After he established several locations throughout the state, including its main headquarters in San Francisco, the temple forged ties with many left-wing political figures and claimed to have like 2,000 members. Granted, it might have been more like 3 to 5. Jones eventually came to believe that nuclear war was imminent and moved his followers again to the South American country of Guyana, because he thought this would be outside the potential danger zone. So the group lived there for several years as the People's Temple Agricultural Project. But after former members started speaking out against the church, San Francisco Congressman Leo Ryan decided to travel there to investigate claims of harm. During his visit, a number of temple members were like, "Hey, can we leave with you?" And they accompanied him to the local airstrip at Port Kituma. There they were intercepted by self-styled temple security guards who opened fire on the group, killing the congressman, 3 journalists, and one of the defectors, as well as injuring 9 others, including Ryan's aide, Jackie Spire. The video we have for you today is a couple of seconds of the incident that were captured on video by NBC cameraman Bob Brown, one of the journalists who sadly passed away in the attack. And this was right before the event we all know. That evening in Jonestown, Jones ordered his congregation to drink a concoction of poison-laced, grape-flavored Flavorate. Yeah, this is where we all got the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid, but it wasn't Kool-Aid. All in all, 918 people died, including 4 folks that died at the temple headquarters that night in the capital of Georgetown. Oh, and side note, surviving temple members of the mass death in the US announced their fears of being targeted by a hit squad composed of survivors, because, they were terrified. Similarly, in 1979, the Associated Press reported a US congressional aides claim that there were 120 white, brainwashed professional killers out from Jonestown awaiting the trigger words to pick up their hit. Temple insider Michael Prokes, who had been ordered to deliver a suitcase which contained temple funds, which were supposed to be transferred to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, took his own life in March of 1979. 4 months after the incident. In the days leading up to his death, Michael sent notes to several people, together with a 30-page statement he had written about the temple. He had arranged for a press conference in a Modesto, California motel room, during which he read a statement to the 8 reporters who attended, before excusing himself, entering a restroom, and sadly taking his life. A Canadian nature lover's attempt to capture wildlife on camera kind of backfired in a terrifying way after she accidentally documented what appeared to be nude witches eating a carcass at night, right by her house. She said, "I don't know what the heck was up with that." This was Cornelia Stanhope. She told the news outlet because she was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "It really freaked us out. It's not something you see every day." Yeah, no kidding. Now, the Powell River local had reportedly been riding one of her horses one day when she came across a dead deer in her garden. And while most folks might have been like, "Okay, gross, let's just get rid of it," the woman and her father decided to set up a camera to see if the carcass would attract any critters at night. Because why not? So she got there the next day and Bob said, "Hey, there's nude people on the camera." And she's like, "Okay, you're kidding, right?" She called a bull, and then he was like, "Nope, here's the photos." So these bone-chilling photos, taken just after sunset, showed 2 disheveled-looking women with long black hair that obscured their faces, squatting over this dead deer and appearing to dine on its remains. The wicked, hungry pair are completely in the nude, except for what looks like loincloths over their nether regions in the found footage horror film-esque moment. Now, the woman said it looks like they have wigs on because one woman might have blonde hair underneath, but you can't really tell from the photos. And you can see like there was the hoof that was brought right up to her mouth. Our poor witness said she wasn't sure if the so-called witches of Beastwick were kissing it, smelling it, or eating it, but was nonetheless sickened by the ritual, given the amount of bacteria that was possibly on the decaying carcass. Also, she was especially creeped out because the impromptu cuddling session occurred only 2 minutes away from her house. And she was concerned about these women messing with her horses at night, because apparently the horses get really spooked and really unnerved around that specific area. So at first, our witness thought like she was imagining things. Maybe it's something nothing. Social media seemed pretty convinced that the Canadian had witnessed witches, a local cult, or some other malevolent entity performing a demonic ritual. Somebody was like, "This is actually terrifying." Somebody else was like, "That's an S-walker. They look human, so you come up to them, and once you do, you're gone." Another person was like, "That's basically a walking demon from hell. If you hear screaming, stay inside, get a weapon, leave it alone." And a lot of folks were like, "This is a demonic cult," which means stay away, folks. American professional boxer Ryan Garcia alleged once upon a time that Bohemian Grove, a place rumored to exist in the north of San Francisco, is very much real and is an elite club where he once witnessed some really heinous stuff. He claimed this while he was live on the app formerly known as Twitter with Andrew Tate on March 5 of 2024. Now, in the wake of his allegations, there was a video that went viral online that showed a satanic ritual. So this video was allegedly originally leaked in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist and radio show host Alex Jones, who allegedly infiltrated the Bohemian Grove around the same time after being denied entry multiple times. While the visual is a little hazy, audio is not the best, some kind of ritual was ongoing. There was fireworks, there was cloaked priests, and well, we've got all those speculations of alleged satanic ceremonies, and that's giving cult vibes. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience has also gone viral, where he claimed that when he trespassed on the Grove a couple decades back, he saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, which only further fuels the alleged satanic cult ritual speculation. Well, the Bohemian Club website obviously denies the claims of secret and illegal affairs going on in the area, or technically even its existence. In a 2011 article, the Washington Post revealed that the members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly in the 1940s. That's enough proof for me.